Okay, I'll start the Tuesday, November 29th, City Council special meeting. Approval of the agenda. So moved. All in favor? Yes.
We didn't second it.
Second. Sorry.
I'll go there.
Okay, first thing is a public comment. That'd be Jen.
Your mayor, city councilors, and city staff. Thank you for having this emergency management cash site presentation and tour today. As a citizen of Cannon Beach, it is my hope that I, as well as any other interested citizen, may accompany you all to the cash site and partake in the tour. It's important for all of us to understand what is going on in our community, especially when it involves our emergency management process, projects, and our Cripple Creek Forest Reserve. Thank you.
You. Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom? I don't think so. All right. Okay, at that, I will turn this presentation over to Rick.
Okay, thank you.
Just to let everybody know, we will be adjourning on the end of the tour. We won't be, well, we'll be coming back here, but
It'll be a public meeting while we're on the tour.
Thank you guys all for coming. I know you guys are extremely busy, as everybody is. One of the main reasons I wanted to meet with you guys specifically at this period of time is there's been a lot of people running for positions and changing leadership positions in the city. That's good. Good to have the people involved. It's good to have the committees stocked with people and choices. And thank you guys for doing it. Really appreciate it. The challenge for you guys, especially in the transition period, is really paying attention to where we came from and then where we're going. And usually I only get 15 minutes to talk. Or someone talks more. But today I wanted to know.
It's supposed to be 5.
It's to be 5, exactly. But what I wanted to do with you guys today is I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to kind of look at what we've done and we've built over the past few years. And also give some history of what was here before and then where we want to go. Because the tasks that are going to be in front of, especially the committee or the council in the next few years are going to be massive. And emergency management is going to fall to the side of that. And that's okay. That's okay. But I want you guys, when all of a sudden we're getting hit with budget meetings and all these other things that are going to come your way and the amount of meetings that are going to come your way that don't have anything to do with this, I want you to kind of have a visible idea of what's going on with emergency management. So it's not on your radar. And if it is on your radar, it's educated radar. So a lot of stories get hijacked. A lot of stories that you guys get are filtered with other motivations. And it's okay to have great public comment, but this is an opportunity for us to have a conversation about this specifically. All right. So when it comes down to emergency management, the things that I want you guys to realize as we go back here, the 4 stars in the logo that's on emergency management here, those 4 stars equal mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. And those are big things that we talk about all the time. So if you look at mitigation, what other departments in the city are part of mitigation? Planning, specifically planning. If we don't have that conversation all the time, so if you're in those committees, it's always going to have an emergency management point of view at some certain respects. Preparedness, this community is all about preparedness, not only ecologically, but also safety. It's a very safety culture community. But where does emergency management fit into it? The TSP was riddled with emergency management concepts. Okay, response. This community is trying to grow as a responding community, and it has to use its volunteers, it has to use its staff, and it has to use its limited workforce, especially in the fire department. Very small and it's growing. But you have to have that response integrated with emergency management. And at the county level, it has not been good over the past several years. It's not been coordinated, and that's also growing. But overall, that response has been challenged. And then recovery. We've barely talked about our recovery efforts. We're still trying to recover from COVID. But recovery is a massive thing, and we have taken steps in emergency management to deal with recovery efforts. But at the same time, there are always things that are coming in planning that you have to prepare for well in the future. So when you talk about some of these grants and replacing some of this infrastructure, that's all mitigation and recovery at the same time. And what it does is it creates a safety culture. That safety culture in the city is not, it's not shunned at all. It's embraced, but it's not embraced by everybody. The safety culture in the city can affect the retiree community, the small business community, and large business community totally different. So you have to understand what is their point of view, what is their perspective, and you have to know what their needs are. And I think COVID showed us a lot of that, huge amount of that. And so it's important that we pay attention to this cycle, and this cycle is always moving. So in the city, what cycle is constantly moving? What is it? What cycle is constantly moving? Preparedness, mitigation, all those things when it comes to planning and preparedness. And then the fiscal machine. Is the fiscal machine constantly moving every year? Every 6 months, this thing has a reset and a recheck, and it's always moving forward. So this is always happening. So when we talk about an event, especially response, the response will go to a certain level and then it's going to stop and it's going to start again. And you'll hear me talk a little bit about that today. So on the maps I laid out for you guys, I wanted to show you guys the system network that I've been trying to build, but it was already established before I got here. I just try to emphasize the good decisions that were made in the past and make it better. When I first got here in 2019, at the end of that year, I worked with the county as much as I could at that time. And the county let me know that there's no resources for you. There's no infrastructure for you. And that told me something. It told me something specifically. If we don't have any infrastructure here and resources in this city soon, like fast, we are way behind and we're never going to catch up. And we are not a high priority to anybody, just us. So the key was to start taking the resources that we had and maximizing it and start pulling those resources and putting them in geographic locations around the city. So I want to show you a system network that shows where those cache sites are today, and you guys get a chance to see them all. But also, how do we communicate? In 2007, we had everybody talks about the severe weather event, 2007. Before I got here, and it's not about me, but before I got here, what efforts happened in the county to change that? None. Absolutely nothing was done to help that scenario that hit us. Right now, I would say we're in a good position to handle that event again, because we can communicate not only inside the community, we can survive longer and have a resilient community with the resources we have, and we can communicate out. We don't have to worry about roads closed to give us stuff right now today. We can survive a lot better for a short period of time now than that event happened. And a lot of people have not focused on that. They focus on Cascadia. You have to focus on the events that have been hitting us. We just got a weather advisory today for snow in our mountains. That's happening tonight. Okay. Are we prepared in the city for snow down here? Not really. We do a pretty good job. We got a really good public works team. Does anybody know how big our public works team is? 12 members in the field. You know how big Seaside is? 5. We're doing good on those aspects, but are we ready for those things? And I'd say we're doing pretty good. So I want to show you guys where our communication network is, and then the cache sites are, and the emergency operation centers. So if you look at this map here, the one I gave you, right here in the middle of the city, that's our primary EOC, and we're sitting in this building here. When I got here, we did not have any technology that allowed us to communicate with our citizens other than coming to this building. And we changed that, and we have the ability to communicate outside the city in this building. So we're gonna start here, and we're gonna kind of end somewhere else. And then we're gonna go to the North Tank antenna. That's gonna be our first spot. That's where we have our private, or not private, but backup emergency communications set up there. And we're gonna view that today. And then we're gonna show you the Oscar cache site, which is the north area cache site. And then we're gonna travel down to the Tango cache site, which is the south area cache site. And as we come back and conclude our day, we're going to come back to the center of the town, and I'm going to show you the Echo cache site, which is probably where this all started with emergency preparedness. And there's been some great things that we can do there, but we realize it's a limited spot, but that's where all the high density of the city is going to end up. And then we're going to show you the water treatment plant, which is our new cache site, the Whiskey cache site. We're going to show you the value of that site and the need for that. And then we're going to end up at the backup EOC at Public Works. one thing that's important about seeing where all these locations are, it's also where are our shelters. Our primary shelter in the city is the church on Washington. The secondary one is the backup church here at the Bible Church. And then we have Talbot Hall and the school. And then we also have Coaster Construction. That's a specialty shelter. It puts so much money into that building to survive an event and to work. It is a location that we can maximize for food delivery, medication, and communications. That's really important. So if you look at Coaster Construction, the Echo Cache site, the Whiskey Cache site, and the Public Works building, that is the fallback position for this city. And it's resilient and it's bolstered. And I want you guys to see what that looks like today. If we have a really, really bad event, that's where we're going to basically make sure that we can function as out of that area and out of this area. So when you look at the whole core of the city, it's got redundancy built into it. And I want you to show you what that looks like today. And it's growing. It's always evolving. It's not done yet. It's just in evolution, but it's had a good footprint. So let's talk about City Hall real quick here. Everything that we have duplicates for something else. Multi-use. And I can't tell you how many council meetings there have been here or committee meetings. We use this room every day and we use this technology every day, but it also can be flipped to be utilized as a primary resource. The majority of any kind of events that happen in the city are going to happen out of a centralized location like this. And so you have to have some place that you can have an EOC that's going to work for 98% of your events. And it has to be someplace where everybody's able to get to quickly. And so you have to have a building like this that's multi-use. And this has been a great one. The building itself is not a great facility specifically, but it's a great size for us to have a good starting point and a good gathering point. In this building, we've put our all of our communications and we kind of hide it behind that door. But as we walk out of the building, we go on our tour. I want to take a quick look at all the antennas and all the infrastructure that's been built here. And we're going to do a real quick radio check on this. And it's an ability for us to just turn on the light switch, plug in those radios and start communicating not only inside our city, but outside the city and get information. Then the EOC at Public Works, we also use that as a Public Works training center. And we're going to end up there today so you guys can see the redundancy of this building and this facility at that location. That is not an adequate location to run a major event, but it's a great starting place. And it's a place for us to gather our police, our fire, our emergency volunteers, our public works, and start coordinating events and communicate. And it's really, really important that we have a backup location no matter what. And that's a pretty good spot for it currently. It's not ideal and it's not built out 100%, but it does work as part of the network. What we've done in the city, I'd say probably since 2020, and I got Rusty in there for a reason, is we have done a lot to improve the city security improvements. We've changed the firewalls and the communications, and we protected the city's assets quite a bit. And all the cache sites we're going to go to today have these improvements built into them. And so we do have Wi-Fi extenders because we figured out that's a challenge around here, right? So this building's got multiple Wi-Fi extenders. Public Works does as well, and so are these cache sites. The goal with the cache sites is to make them village safety centers. People have to rendezvous at those locations. They need to be able to get information, shelter, and have a plan. And that's the goal for these locations, is to be able to do that. And so having Wi-Fi, having a cellular extender, and security cameras at these locations are very important. Security cameras have brought a lot to the city when it comes to just overall city resiliency. In 2020 and 2021, how much vandalism did we have in the city? How much more increase of people and population do we have here? We had tons of vandalism to the city. The security cameras have added us a layer of protection to all the city assets, to where at least things that are happening are being noted. And I used to work in an environment that even the city facilities were locked down because they were a hazard and a target. People broke into them and injured people. So the fact that we have at least a security system here that's got cameras, at least that are a place where we work and might end up, and we can view these sites remotely, is really, really important. Another thing that's important is for law enforcement. If they get a trigger that something's going on at the Tango cache site, they can quickly look on the monitors and find out who's out there. Is it an elk? Is someone doing damage? Is there fire being set there? What is happening? We only have one officer routinely on duty at a time. The ability for them to not put themselves at harm's way that fast and being alone is really important. They can at least look and see what they're getting into. And we can record those efforts. We have a little demonstration here, and it's no one's really seen this stuff. Even our city staff, we haven't taken the time to take everybody through here. So I want to click on this link here and just show you what some of that stuff looks like and how important it is. And also realize with some of the grant funding and some of the visions that we've done to these sites, we've put hundreds of thousands of dollars into these sites. They're very valuable. And so at least having video surveillance of some of these locations is important. As you can see here, we've got some of the cache sites up there. We have this location at Gower. Right there, we have, it's just City Hall is covered. We have the back parking lot here. We have our quarters here. And then we have some of the cache sites. North Pink Antenna is a site that we're going to go to today, which is very remote. That site, a lot of times there's been people up there that have started campfires up there. And we've had to put up signage in there, and we've talked to neighbors to just know that there's people that go up there and camp and they start fires up there. And it was pretty scary a couple months ago when it was hotter than normal temperatures and east winds started coming around. And we start learning from the neighbors. There are people up here camping and starting campfires. And I go up there and see the aftermath and the evidence of that. And I go, this is not good. That camera is really, really important. And it led to some signage up there, and it gave us a chance to have a little bit more security up there. And it's really helped the law enforcement because they were not usually going up there as a check. That kind of stuff, those remote locations that we have. Okay, thank you.
So those are live shots?
Yeah,
Yeah, they
let's
were
go back to it real quick. Those are live shots. And so let's why don't we click on the Echo Cache site? Or let's go to Oscar. Let's go to the Oscar Cache site. We have a great captured video of a rabbit and a coyote having feats of strength and seeing who won that fight, which I think the rabbit won that fight.
It did.
But we have two cameras up there, and it showed some things that were very entertaining. But overall, that's also another remote site that we've had break-ins. We have the Red Cross trailer up there. That trailer's been broken into and vandalized. And we have now that protected not only in a shelter with a gate on it, but we also have it to where we have a camera in that area. And it does help us get in there, but that's a live shot right there.
And we're still working on Tango and Whiskey.
Right. And a lot of these sites, people basically said, there's no way you're going to get power in these locations. And I beg to differ. We can do this stuff together. And council and staff have all of the reasons and powers to make these decisions. If you support it and we can move forward, we can get grants and we can move forward, but we can also budget these things and make it happen. And we've gotten power at these sites. And there's sanitation and there's power and there's Wi-Fi and it's a good village safety location. And they're protected with security cameras. Thanks, Preston.
Mhm.
So another thing that we've done recently to this community, and when I first got here, this community was not accessing the city for information. 100%. People do not come to the city for info, even when it's city info. And I thought that's terrible. Why is that happening? Why is that like that? And if people just had other means of doing that. So Rusty's done a really good job with the tools we had at the time to improve the website. But we also went on a campaign to try to reach out to the community. When COVID hit, we started a community notification list, which is actually a list that I started by gathering emails of people who wanted the information and the updates on COVID. That led to a 600+ person community notification list. Those are people in our community. We have a 1,500 person resident community here. And we have over, 32% of them are people that we reach out to once a month or whenever we have something recent. Show of hands, who got the recent information about the king tides? All right. Those are the tiny things that we can reach out, send to you, get on your smart device and focus, okay, this is what's going on. So that's how we got to that. So we have the community notification list that we've been working for not only my needs, but also planning and giving information out from the city. So people can always say they didn't get notified, but it's not because we're not doing proactive measures. So we have the community notification list. We also have a Nixle. We have our city safety, public safety group. And what we've done is the police have their own Nixle And the fire department didn't have any Nixle, and we didn't have any representation as a city in there. So what I was able to do is get all three of us on the same page as entities, because I want to be able to take the information if the fire department's working an incident. I want to be able to call the chief or the duty officer and say, hey, do you want me to put something out? And they're all yes or no, and they tell me what's going on. I go, okay, and we turn that around and we put out a Nixle. And Nixle is an Everbridge product. Everbridge is run by the county and the state, but overall, the Nixle allows us to have our own control over that. And we have over 1,500 people that are on the Nixle for Cannon Beach. And that's a big deal. That is, I mean, I don't think that's our whole population, but it's a number bigger than our population that is on that Nixle. So when things were going on with the Tillamook head, they were sending out information, but they weren't coordinating it with anybody. But then the next day, we started coordinating the best we could to pull information in, and then we put out something about a burn ban. And we put it out on that notice. So it's very important that we have the ability to do that, but we also keep asking people, please sign up for these events. It's on our website, and we do push it quite a bit. And I always have it on the end of some of the things I send out is, please sign up for these community notifications. With that, we have the Classic Alerts, which is a county and state-run Everbridge. I have the ability to send things out on there, but it's mostly for the emergency volunteers or a geographic region. But you also have to be careful about over notifying people. If you overmodulate people and just start sending out every alert. How many weather alerts have been sent out in the past week from Tillamook? Anybody? 7. And there's stuff that's normal for us. They're normal. It's just weather, right? So we try to send out the stuff that's a little bit more impressive, something that's an actual warning, something that's going to tell you what's going to happen. And we want to make sure that those happen. And Classic Alerts sends those out. There's also NOAA alerts, and there's earthquake notification signups. I had a very challenging time getting the whole staff just on this, because there's different things that you can sign up for, and there's challenges with those. Sometimes your email's not good. Sometimes you have to get some response back. So I want to always have it up there as a page that people can say, well, what is all the information I need to sign up for to get to tell me about earthquakes, severe weather, what's happening locally, what's happening in the state or the county, and then stuff that you want to tell me, and it's all there. And we're improving it. Our goal is to improve our website and make it as clean as possible to where we're able to react to what people want, but also what they need. Right now, our website has got a lot of stuff on it, and our goal is to get it to where it's a little bit cleaner and it's a little bit updated. And we're working on it, right, Rusty? We're going to get that done in the next couple of years or the next year, hopefully. But that's very, very important when you talk about a resilient city. And I go to their website and quickly find something. That's a resilient city. That's a safe city. If I'm a visitor coming in, I don't have time to mess around with too much stuff. I want to have it kind of at my fingertips if possible. So we're learning. Communications locally and regionally. One thing you have to realize is that us partnering with a local organization that's a nonprofit, this map that they have here that I wanted you guys to see, this map, these little blue dots are all of their repeaters that the Sunset Empire Amateur Radio Club has. Believe it or not, they surround almost, I'd say 75% of the county. They make it possible for us to communicate out of this bowl of the city. So I've used their backbone network, and they've helped me build this network. So we communicate inside our city and also communicate outside, and we support them. Why is that important for you to know? We bring that information to council to support during budget. There's some of these emergency volunteer groups that don't need much, but they save us thousands. And they also are here. These members are members of our community. Dale and Richard have been instrumental in helping us over the past 2 or 3 years. They helped me build all this stuff up here, and they have the knowledge. I don't have the knowledge. I'm just a meathead. They say, Rick, ladder up, put this there, and I go do it. Rick, turn on radio. Thank you. Turn on radio. Thank you. You know, these guys show me how to do some of these things, but they do all the heavy lifting. Why it's important for you guys, though, is we can pay Day Wireless $100,000 to build this system, and then every time they come back, it's $150 an hour. We save a lot of money by making sure that we have infrastructure that locals are helping us build. And if we don't have the expertise within that, we go elsewhere and we go pay for that. But in general, that's why it's important to support those volunteer groups that help us. And they've got a network that other counties don't have. Matter of fact, we've been fortunate enough to clue in the new emergency management director on how important that is. And he's also now supporting them, and he's also a member of CERC. So that comes down to regional cooperators. I go up all the time to Nikolai and Onion Peak and help them fix these these repeaters so we can communicate out, communicate locally. And it's important that we have someone in the community that's able to do that. And it's not just because it's me, but it's probably the most important thing is you have something go, oh, this is broken. I'm going to go help you fix it because they're going to help us down the road. And so in the 2007 weather event, these were the people that actually got communications to Clatsop County and nobody else. These are the ones that did it. So we go up there and we help them. I help them build these sites. Rusty's been to these sites with me on Megler, and they're pretty impressive and they're worth supporting. For a region that has so much topography, which is why it's so challenging to function outside of your envelope. These are some of the areas that function. And getting the county involved in this is major important for me. Before we got the new emergency management director involved in this, we didn't have a lot of support. Now we do, and that's positive. That's something really good. So we talk about our communications inside, and a lot of the stories about communications, because if you can communicate and you have resources and you have a plan, and that makes a resilient city, what that also does is have a safe city and a calmer, not only population, but also visitors. You can quickly get them information into safety. And one of the most important things is something that we're going to show you this morning is that North Area Tank radio system. We also partnered with KMUN with this. They were trying to build this for 15 years. And I'm so glad that they didn't give up on it. And they gave us a lot of effort, and they did a lot to help us make this happen. And now they can go south. Now they can communicate here in Cannon Beach, and we can also use them as an emergency broadcaster. So partnering with them has also been excellent.
Rick, when you're saying that we can use it, that's the city staff going up there
Correct.
and being able to transmit. We don't have to rely on them to get here.
That's right. There's a microphone up there.
Bringing it in.
Yep, and we can actually speak on that and give broadcasts if we need to. There's certain things that are probably definitely going to fail in a major event. This system also could fail, but it's part of the redundancy system. But the things that we've already shown that are going to fail in a major event, all we have to do is simply look at our holidays. 4th of July, Sandcastle, cellular network failed just because overuse. There was no emergency. That's going to happen. Satellite's expensive, and satellite's not 100%, but also a system that a lot of people are going to get on. But what I'm showing you here is even if this system up here fails, we can communicate locally and get information to our locals and communicate and run incidents. So on your next map there, on the second one, I've taken the overall network map and I've covered it with geographic areas and divisions. So if you look at this here, you look at the ham repeater, GMRS, you look at those two repeaters and you look at the colors and they surround this whole area. And the ham repeater is important. Ham repeater basically gets us out of our area and to different places in the county and the state. Right now, we can communicate through our ham repeater system to Salem. That's where the state level Oregon emergency management is. That's important. So we have that now in our city. Besides, if we didn't have that now, we would have had to rely on the circuit team and Arch Cape Onion Peak repeater. And now we have our own repeater. Now, if that repeater fails, we would go ahead and use their repeater. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that. But in general, we've broken the city up into 3 divisions. We have the Oscar division up here in the north area. We have the Echo division in Midtown. We have the Tango division here in the Tallahassee area. And we have the water treatment plant, which is the Whiskey division. If we have people in these areas, they can communicate internally as a group, and they can communicate to command and control at an emergency operations center. And that's the way, worst case scenario, that's how we can communicate, and that's how we build our system. And down here in this area, this is Arch Cape. This is the Alpha division. The reason why that's so important is, and the reason why we put our antenna where we did, is we know that there's nobody answering for Arch Cape, Falcon Cove, and Arcadia. Nobody has a handle on that. And that's going to end up dumping on us. We're the largest municipality and most organized municipality that can support them during a major event. And they're going to need our support. And so what do? We include them in our communications plan. We coordinate and we collaborate with them so that they have a plan for themselves. And they're always invited to our party all the time. So we get them involved in our communications right off the bat. They finance themselves, but we support them. Yeah.
When you say they,
Who is they in Arch Cape?
Excellent. So we have supported them and we've encouraged them to start their own community response teams. They're not necessarily CERT members, but they're community response teams. And so they take a neighborhood group and they invite us down, or we say, hey, if you guys want to get your group together, we'll come and talk to you about these things and talk about radios and caches and support. And then we show them what we're doing. And then we network them as best we can with the county. So it's basically homeowners. And I've been to Arch Cape's Public Works. I've talked to them specifically about how we do business. And honestly, they helped us with sharing resources. So in those communities, that's what we're doing. So we're basically talking to homeowners that are organized and they've created a cache. Arcadia created a cache on their own and Sam's building barrels for them right now. And we're putting resources, their money to good work up there. And we're basically directing them on how to do some of those things. And the fire station, Cannon Beach Rural Fire Protection District has an Arch Cape community cache site on their location, and we're trying to improve that stuff. We're trying to get them more money. We're trying to give them direction on exactly how to build it. And if they can mirror what we're doing, then we're all going to be seamless and a little bit more consistent. But great question. They don't have any real leadership out there except for the county emergency manager, and that's strained. It's tough. It's a big county.
Yeah. And just so much of everything we do is about relationships. You saw the two guys, and that's Richard
and Dale.
They live in Arch Cape. And so we're supporting them, they're supporting us. We're the closest city as far as them setting up their, even any infrastructure that they could help themselves. So it's all about working together, and Rick has done a great job pulling those kind of things together.
But Mike, great question about who are these identified people? And it's tough when you don't have any kind of government structure down there or a real city. Then these individuals that are holding together these hometown networks, these just residents, they may pass away, they may sell their house, they may lose interest, all those things. So it does depend on trying to keep something purposeful with them. And that's one of the main reasons, not only for us, but for them, is I wouldn't allow the CAL system to go away. I said, no, let us have it, because it also reaches down to Arch Cape. It's important to make sure these communities stay together. And that's one thing that links us there. So
Yeah, I was just wondering if the fire department had a more active role in Arch Cape.
I think you guys have a pretty active role down there, right?
Yeah, they do a lot of their meetings at our station down there.
Yeah,
The community, their emergency meetings and their just community meetings.
right. And we do some of our CERT training down at that fire station that brings some of their CERT members in there. So, making sure that we have a good relationship not only with the fire department does bring that community together. And it does take work though. When I first got here, it was fairly strained. It wasn't quite as clean as it is now, and we still got to keep it going. So on the last part is I gave you guys a card there, a laminated card, and I want you to keep it. And we're going to talk about that card in a second. But look at the other list there. Look at the actual frequency list. Those are all the things that are on our radios. So even my little radio that I have here that the CERT members have, that all of the city leaders have, the police officers have, they have a radio like this. And all of these frequencies are on there. The stuff on the left there, the yellow stuff, that's all the ham network. And that ham network goes directly with the county. The county auxiliary communications, we have their stuff and we don't change it. My goal here is not to be special. My goal here is to make it work. So you have to look at the common list of things and you have to buy into that. Just because you're the smartest person in the room sometimes means that nothing's going to work for you almost every time. You have to make sure that this works with everybody. And if the county and the state change those things, we have to have flexibility to change these frequencies with so that it works for them. Then you see that list where it's broken up into GMRS. So you have the ham list, then you have the GMRS. GMRS is the General Mountain Radio Service. It's a step below ham. You still need to get a license, but you don't have to go to a class for it. And that's where we take all of our certs and we put the cert and the ham, and we put everybody on that list and we ask them to buy their own radios so that they can pay for their own radios and pay for their own certifications. She's got it with her right now, and I will program it. But what that does is that immediately puts our communications of an emergency operations center and the ability to run a city emergency in the hands of the emergency volunteers. Okay, they can't transmit on anything public safety, but we can at least get them on the radio, coordinate them, and start reaching out with a plan. And so you have a lot of things on this list. You have police in blue. On the back page, you have fire. And then you also have public works and some air ambulances and the Coast Guard on the back. So you have a lot of stuff on these radios. But what I want you guys to focus on is this. We've broken this whole system down where it's this simple. It is simply, we start on Canada Beach Command when we're talking, and that's even us running a major event as a city. And then you coordinate the emergency volunteers within that. Meanwhile, we have the ability to talk to police and fire and public works on separate radios, okay? The important thing about that is you can't run a citywide emergency on police radio frequencies. What would happen to their operations? What about fire? Complete nutshell. It would collapse on them. You have to allow them to function with their own frequency, and then we have to function. And that's why having an emergency operations center and having the ability to have flexibility in that EOC, it all starts with a radio, a location, and an organization and a plan. So we have it broken down into this. When you have your divisions, yes.
Can you say something about how this coordinates with the EOC?
Mhm.
If without the radios going out in the field with certain things like that, we will be blind and deaf. So we won't know anything that's going on. And that was kind of our situation before this. We're looking now at the ability that the fire department would have their EOC, or our EOC is their EOC. There's no point in running to, we'd have to share information somehow and all that. But with folks being in the field, if suppose this we're operating, out of this, roads will be disrupted, all kinds of things. So we won't know what's going on, and we'll have an incident commander here trying to make decisions. Now, all of a sudden, somebody can say that the road's not passable, at First Street Bridge is out. That kind of information. There's a house that's collapsed, and we don't know if anybody's in it. We'll have somebody here, probably out of the planning department, that will be tracking all that on a map that'll be on one of these TVs, so that when a call comes in, it goes up. If somebody responds to it and turns out that it's nothing, it comes off or it changes color or something. But that we will be able to tell people, well, you can't go that way. You're going to have to go in a different direction. They'll be telling us that somebody, certain things are disrupted or whatever. And then all of a sudden we'll have a lot of information, and then that we can use that to make decisions. So this is a huge thing. It's a huge upgrade for what we can do. And what yes. Thanks, Rick.
So another thing to add to this is simplicity. It seems like a lot of channels, but it's not. We use one channel at a time, and if that channel gets busy, we break up into the smaller channels and everybody can talk to each other on the small channel, which is what they call simplex. It's not repeated, but we also have added things in there like HRAP. HRAP has their own channel that they use all the time. We want to make sure that they have a radio channel that's operating with something consistently that we're going to use in case of an emergency. Same thing with DART, and MRC has their own radios. So we have our groups that function off of these radios, and they have a kind of a place to go. And worst case scenario, we can run an incident and still incorporate them, but not bleed over into the public safety. The job of an emergency operations center and emergency manager is to coordinate information in and get that information out and coordinate operations and efforts and make sure that there's not confusion. And so the clarity of it, the simplicity has to be simple. If we lose all of our infrastructure, if I have a charged portable radio, I can function. If not, it's runners. And I elect Janae to be my runner at all times. Your Walker dog is fast.
You have to think, after an event, all communication is face to face. So if I need to talk to Jan, I've got to find Jan. I've got to talk to people. You're just asking people, where she might be. So this is just a huge upgrade. So I'm repeating. I'm a repeater.
Okay. Now how does this work as a network when you talk about communications and then what happens outside this area, inside this area? It really comes down to how we staff our cache sites. The cache sites can't just be a place to warehouse equipment for the big one. That's kind of a waste of opportunity. It's a great start. I'm so grateful we have it. Some communities put barrels in homes, which is great, but it doesn't get you anywhere. These cache sites, we've been able to add power communications, Wi-Fi, security, add equipment there, probably quadruple their ability to store equipment. We've got dehumidifiers in each one of these boxes to try to make these things more sustainable. And you guys will see that today. And then we have equipment in there designed for us to operate smartly. And so Oscar is going to be the north area one that we're going to see. Right now you see it closed and open on the right. As we walk through there, I want you guys to look at what we have in there and ask questions. How does this work? And what's the purpose of it? I want you guys to be creative and functional as much as possible. Echo is our cash site in the center of town that we're going to go through, and I'm looking forward to showing you guys that. We just got propane tanks added to each cash site, and we already have propane generators at each cash site. The good thing about that is propane is going to be one of the last fuels that people are going to use. We're going to run out of gas. Okay, that's a fact. So if everybody needs gas, our backup plan is to have propane and gas. Our generators run on dual fuel, so they will run on gasoline and propane, but our goal is to have at least enough propane to support those areas. So if we have a 500-gallon propane tank at each cash site, that's 2,000 gallons just for operating the cash sites. I'm also building in the ability to hand pump into a smaller tank. So if some person does have a heater or some person has a cooking device that they need, they can actually fill there and be self-sustaining. So that's another option for us that we're adding to the sites. And you'll see a little bit of that today. The Whiskey site, this is a critical site. The reason why this is so important to us is honestly space. Almost all of the space we have in the city is in an inundation zone, almost all of it in a big event. And it's not big enough to start putting people, if we have a lot of people trapped here for a long period of time. And the number one thing that I've always heard about, and I truly believe, is water. If you can't bring water to a populace, the time frame that they have to survive is very limited. We're lucky we have water in this community, but where is it? How do you get it? How do you filter it? How do you deliver it? That's what this site's all about. This site's all about, and that's why we put it at the water treatment plant, is not only does it have the space, but it's right by the water. And we're going to basically be getting, I'm going to be building, hopefully next year, building a water treatment trailer that can be stored inside these boxes and a place that they're safely stored, that we can pull that water treatment trailer out, find a water source, put it in the water and pump it out. And then we can take that water from that trailer and put it in our water delivery trailers, which we got a grant for that. All right, that's coming. And we can fill those trailers up and we can make them mobile and take them to the cash sites or wherever the easiest places is for us to get. And the key is I want to put 2 or 3 trailers inside these sites and a water filtration trailer and the ability to warehouse people as in tents. Right now, we don't have tents to put people in. We have tents to start an operation that we can start an operation and have a communications tent, a kitchen, and a main tent, but that's not sleeping quarters, nothing like that. So our goal is to put something in here that might be a little bit more long-term, but there's no place in the city to put this stuff. There's no place in Public Works to put it. You can't just keep adding things to Tango all the time. It's a great site, but it's kind of getting overgrown. But in general, it's not in the middle of town and it's not close to water, not really. So this is the best site for us to maximize on this. And we're real proud of this. And we were able to get that grant to fund this. This probably would have been a 5-year project to go through the committees and through council to get it budgeted. And that grant made it happen for us. And then we pulled the trigger and we got it moving. Good thing about this site too is we're going to get satellite at the building at the water treatment plant, because right now they have no cell service, they have no internet out there. The crews really can't work out there safely. They are just off the grid, essentially. They may like that, but it's not safe. You know? So we are getting that out there, and it also gives us an option as a city of not only radio and cellular, it gives us a satellite option. We have satellite phones in the city, and I'll show you what that looks like, but that doesn't send data. That doesn't get us that option, but we're working on it. It's going to happen at that location. And then the Tango division. Tango is one of my favorite sites because it's large. We have you'll see some excavators and other equipment out there from private contractors. And we do enjoy having their equipment at our sites because we can use them in case of emergency. And that's rare. We can't afford, $300,000 excavators just to sit around just in case. But they park them there and it works for us. And we partner with them and they're great people to work with and great teams. And so you'll see some of that stuff out there. But that's one of the tanks getting dropped off the other day. And that site's also another special site because we have the DART team out there. We have the Sunset Empire Amateur Radio Club's box that they purchased out there. And we have the Red Cross trailer out there. So that's an important site. All right, the systems in use. These systems are not just rainy day systems. They're not just in case. We use these at least once a month for communications. We also do training out there. We've had a couple of really good training over the past since Sam, when we started in August through just this last month. We had 3 or 4 really good trainings out there where we got everybody gathered out there and we learned a ton of information, and we actually deployed the tents and we got teams operational. And we've done staff trainings out there. And every month we test our radio system and our community network system by Wayfinding Wednesdays. And we do bring people out from the public. It does get some people out there. It's kind of old hat for the locals to do Wayfinding Wednesdays, and it's turned into a radio test, but we're doing our radio test once a month. That's a big deal to be able to test that system at least once a month, geographic areas, and make sure that they all work. And we run through a system there. We talk on command, we go to simplex, we go to small areas. We actually test that every month, and it's important for us to do that. And so these systems, this network is being used all the time. All the time. So the key to what's happening with emergency management, and it should always happen, and don't forget that four purpose circle that keeps on going down. You have to keep connected the police and fire staff and council together at a minimum. You have to keep them on the same page moving forward. If a catastrophic emergency happens here, where is everybody going to land? Recently, Oregon Department of Forestry tried to evacuate an area. Well, that's a law enforcement thing. Law enforcement are the ones that authorize evacuations. They didn't contact the sheriff. So we're not connected as a county. Okay, it's very, very important that our city stays connected, and there's a focal point for that. And it's not necessarily me. It's basically in emergency management is where we have a focus point. It could be anybody. And my goal, honestly, is to work myself out of a job. If I'm not here, this system works. I don't want to be the one holding the keys. I've been exhausted. I haven't slept in 3 years. Okay, I don't like being the only person that can do this. And what have we done? We've trained the staff. We've trained emergency volunteers, and now we're here talking to you guys as public officials that this is everybody's responsibility, and you don't always have to be here to make it work. And if you make a resilient city that can work without you, you've done your job. Okay? Anybody here that's trying to make a tenure and be here forever is lying to you. Have to do it without them. You have to function without them and come together, because this community will come together. It's just, what's the plan? Do we know what it is? Is it simple? Will it work? And that's why it's important that police, fire, and council and staff stay all on the same page. And they stay committed to projects together. They share resources. The emergency volunteers are unbelievably critically important to this community. So few public safety people here that you have to rely on that. And the county is starting to see that as how important it is. Remember, during COVID, staffing those, not only those vaccination sites, but also the radios, over 60% of all the volunteers came out of Cannon Beach for the whole county. That's incredible. That's an incredible statistic. It's unbelievable. But we also need to tap into that and keep them funded. And that comes down to council, that comes down to people in a budget thing. How do we fund their programs? And then the regional partners, get back here, the regional partners, local, state, and county. I've done a lot of tours with the county and state officials to let them know what we're doing here, how important it is that they start realizing they need to look at the coastal communities at the highest risk communities and how do you better serve them. And we've gotten a lot of traction with that. They like what we're doing here. And the thing that I want to stress to everybody is this is not theory. What I want to show you today and what this presentation is about, this isn't theory. We're doing this. It's done. It's built. It's here. And I've been showing the county and state people this stuff, and they're trying to use that as a model. We can get every area to kind of have this attitude about city culture safety, which this community has. Then you start doing well. You start talking about this. What just happened at Warrenton with their fire station? Or was that Gerhard? Tough one. That's a tough one, right? Like, oh man, that's a rough thing. Okay, what did you guys decide about building a new facilities for your police and city hall? You guys decided to do it. How do we do it's going to be tough, but overall, you decided to do it. And that's critical, because if you don't decide to take those actions and move forward, you will always be behind. And the state's starting to pay attention to that. And they're also starting to realize that we need to catch up. They're using other models from other states and the federal government to start hopefully getting up to speed. And I was able to see that at OEMA conference just recently. that they really want to start moving forward. The good thing about that is there's a lot of resources out there for us to keep building these programs, but it really has to be the county has to catch up. We have to keep on target. We have to keep being in this safe cultured area that we portray. We have to keep that going. So we work with our neighbors all the time. This is just some people during their time, We're both on committees. There's a lot of these people out here. This is just a fun picture because these two always crack me up when I just look at them. And they were helping me do things at these cache sites that I don't have time for. I'm a one-man army here and I'm failing at most of my objectives. So these guys helped me out there and they helped me organize some of the stuff up there and get it documented. And so they're very helpful. But I got a lot of pictures like that. And there's a lot of people in this community that like to help out and do a lot of stuff. So it's really, really good. And they also don't know about all this stuff. So my goal eventually is to make sure that we have an opportunity for the citizens that I will do this presentation for them, but also show them these sites so they can see what's going on. I kind of call it a Disneyland tour because it is. But overall, if you don't know these things exist and how they function, how important they are, then it's just not on your radar because it's not always on your radar. Emergency management and prepping is not on everybody's radar. It's hard to do all the time. But it always feels good when you've got some of them. Any questions about what we just shot out? No? Okay. Thank you, Rusty.
You took over 15 minutes.
I did. And then, that's why these conversations are very hard. All right, talk to the council. You got 35 seconds. 35 seconds, okay. And this is just talking about the infrastructure we built. This isn't the stuff and plans that we have ongoing with FEMA grants and resiliency plans that are going to take 3, 5, 7 years to do. This is just the stuff that we built to be prepared. What I want to do before we get into the van is I want to go and I want you guys to look at the radio and I just want you guys to see what they have. We're going to do a radio test so you can see what it sounds like and then we'll get in the van and we'll get moving. Okay. So why don't we jump up here?
Yeah, and you come in with, right?
I would love to.
Yeah.
No problem.
I think we do.
Well, so we're ready. So we're going to adjourn, right, Sam? We're going to adjourn to the tour. And then we are going to adjourn from this meeting at the end of the tour.
We'll come back into here.
Come back here. Yeah.
And then close the meeting and then-
Yeah, close the meeting with you.
and then somebody has to tell me what time you close. Okay, thank you.